We are diving deep today into what feels like the ultimate competitive advantage for B2B tech founders right now. It's about moving beyond just, standard marketing spend and really learning how to turn your personal authority, your voice, into maybe the highest leverage growth channel you have. We're talking authority content, but specifically how to make it actually generate pipeline, not just likes and vanity metrics.
Yeah, exactly. For too long, I think founders have kind of dismissed thought leadership as, like you said, vanity metrics theater. Something that's nice to have maybe, but doesn't really move the needle on sales. But our sources, they really demonstrate the opposite. Authority content, done right, it's pure infrastructure for building trust. And honestly, right now, it looks like the single highest ROI channel available, especially for B2B tech startups trying to stand out.
Okay, so our mission today is to really distill this down. We've got a specific, repeatable 5-pillar framework we want to walk through. And the goal isn't just about getting you, the founder, more visibility or making you famous. It's really designed to build a genuine competitive moat, something your larger competitors, they literally cannot just buy or replicate. And, crucially, to deliver measurable, traceable impact on your pipeline. We're skipping the high-level theory and getting straight into strategic execution.
Okay, great. Let's start with some hard data then, just to hammer home why you need to internalize this right now. If you, the founder, are the voice, the results are pretty shocking. Founder-led content, right? It drives 5 times more engagement than if that exact same message, word for word, came from the official corporate page.
Wow, 5 times. That really frames it as an infrastructure issue, doesn't it? Not just a content problem. It implies the platforms themselves, the algorithms, are actively favoring the human story over the brand's story.
Precisely. And the impact doesn't just stop at engagement, like clicks and views. That trust factor, it actually doubles a buyer's willingness to pay a premium price for your solution. Think about that. That translates immediately to margin, right to the bottom line. Plus, you've got 75% of decision makers actively researching products after they consume quality thought leadership from a founder, and a massive 86%. They invite strong thought leaders directly into the RFP process.
Yeah.
So this isn't just marketing fluff, it's real sales enablement.
Okay, that ROI is undeniable. So how do we capture that systematically in a repeatable way? You mentioned the 5 pillars. Let's list them out so we know what we're diving into.
Yeah, we've broken it down into 5 core frameworks. First is using Milestone Narrative strategically. Second, thinking of culture as marketing. Third, how to do outcome-driven product drops effectively. Fourth is harnessing external validation. And finally, the 5th one, which is crucial, those Contrarian or Operator POVs, the points of view.
All right, pillar 1, company milestones as category narrative. Let's unpack this one. We're talking about using things like a funding round, maybe a big platform launch, or even a key customer win, not just as a PR moment, but as a strategic tool to really reinforce your category positioning. It sounds like we need to get way beyond just saying, hey, we achieved rapid growth.
Oh, absolutely. That phrase, rapid growth, it's just, it's the sound of opportunity being wasted, basically. This first pillar is all about playing the longer game. The research on category creation, it's undeniable. Category creators end up capturing a massive 76% of the total market value in their sectors. 76%. So if you're not framing your milestone as a signal of that category shift you're driving, you're effectively conceding that huge upside.
So the content needs to pull double duty then. It has to prove traction right now, today. But also plant those seeds for category leadership down the road. What does that look like in practice? How do you execute that?
Okay. The sources give us a pretty clear framework here. We're calling it the milestone trifecta. First, you absolutely must lead with specific metrics. Metrics that matter to your buyer or your investor, not just internal vanity stuff. Think, $1 billion in transaction volume processed through our platform this quarter. Specific, not just, we grew significantly. That's too vague.
Right, that specificity, it's like currency, isn't it? It translates something complex into a quantifiable achievement people can grasp.
And we actually have data proving this works. So Series B announcements, for instance, the ones that include these specific hard numbers, they achieve 6.2% engagement rates. And that's a full 31% above the median performance for that kind of announcement. Specifics lend instant credibility. Generic statements just fall flat.
Okay, specific metrics first. What's the second part of the trifecta?
Second, you need to embed your category positioning language right into the announcement. You frame the achievement not just as your win, but as validation of the new category you're building, or, proving out a thesis you've been arguing for months, something like, we are the first B2BX platform to achieve Y milestone, and this fundamentally changes how the market operates. Connect it to the bigger picture.
Got it. metrics, category language, and the third piece.
The third piece completes the loop. You integrate growth signals naturally. You turn that financial celebration, that milestone, into a recruiting funnel and a confidence signal by saying something like, because of this milestone, we're immediately hiring for these 5 specific roles to accelerate our mission to define this category. It shows momentum, it shows opportunity, it attracts talent, and it reassures customers and investors.
And let's not forget the distribution strategy here.
Yeah.
You mentioned earlier the founder has to post first, right?
Yes, absolutely critical. Founders must post from their personal accounts first. That's where you get that 5 times engagement lift we talked about. Don't let marketing post it first on the company page. Founder first. And always include visual proof. Multi-image posts, or even better, a single, really clear chart showing the trajectory. Those achieve the highest LinkedIn engagement rate, around 6.60%. Honestly, one compelling chart beats 3 paragraphs describing the same success every single time.
Okay, that really clarifies how to handle the big number milestones. But let's shift gears now, from the balance sheet maybe to the people and the culture side of things. Pillar 2, culture as performance marketing. Now, for a founder who's laser-focused on pipeline, on ROI, how does sharing internal culture stuff actually deliver measurable value? Isn't that just, I don't know, feel-good content, maybe even a bit self-promotional or vain?
Yeah, that's the skepticism we definitely need to address head-on. Because the ROI here is surprisingly immediate and quantifiable. Culture content, when done right, it functions simultaneously as a powerful recruiting engine, yes, but also as a customer trust signal and an investor confidence builder. It hits multiple targets.
Okay, give us the hard numbers. Let's start with the recruiting side. You said it's quantifiable.
The returns are really staggering here. Companies that actively invest in their employer brand, and that absolutely includes sharing founder transparency, cultural moments, how you work. They see a massive 43% to 50% reduction in their cost per hire, 43 to 50%, and also about a 50% reduction in the time it takes to hire someone. In today's market, where talent is everything, that reduction alone pretty much justifies the effort and the time investment from the leadership team.
Wow, okay, that cost reduction metric is undeniable, ROI, fair enough.
Yeah.
How does this translate over to sales? That's the core focus here.
Yeah, it connects directly through trust. Trust is really the ultimate sales lever in B2B. 99%. Almost every single B2B buyer cites trust as absolutely crucial when they're choosing suppliers, especially with startups where there's perceived risk. And culture content. It builds that trust faster, sometimes, than traditional product marketing can.
So what specific type of culture content works? It's not just pictures of the office dog or birthday cake. Right?
No, definitely not the generic stuff. We're talking about content that signals competence and dependability, often indirectly. Think about posts about, say, an office expansion. On the surface, it's about new square footage. But the signal it sends to a risk-averse enterprise buyer is momentum. It translates subconsciously to, okay, this vendor is stable, they're growing, they're a safe choice, they're going somewhere.
And founder transparency is key here too, I imagine.
Absolutely crucial. Posts where you, the founder, detail your work ethic, maybe the decision-making frameworks you use for tough calls, or even just your philosophy on building the company. That kind of content creates 82% higher trust among potential employees and customers. 82%. People are absolutely vetting the CEO's online presence and thinking before they even engage with the company seriously, showing the real humans behind the product, how they think, how they operate. That proves competence and dependability, which, by the way, Forrester cites as the top 2 levers for building trust.
It really sounds like the cumulative effect here is building a kind of psychological moat around the company.
It really is, and the compounding effect is strong. That transparency around culture, it makes buyers 2 times more likely to pay premium prices for your product. The shift is away from just polished corporate headshots and stock photos and towards maybe that authentically messy all-hands meeting photo. That authenticity pays real dividends and premium pricing power down the line.
Okay, really interesting connection there. Now let's tackle product launches. This feels like it should be straightforward marketing, but the stats are pretty grim. You see figures like 95% of new products failing, and the sources suggest it's often not the product itself, but positioning failures. So if the product is actually good, why are we still failing so often to communicate its value effectively?
It's usually because founders and marketing teams tend to describe the feature and they stop there. They don't describe the outcome in the customer's world. You absolutely have to translate the technology, the feature, into what it enables for the customer. This is where the outcome framework comes in. It's basically an X to Y, Z structure, and it explicitly mirrors how a high-level, busy buyer actually thinks about solutions.
Okay, X leads to Y leads to Z. So X is the feature.
Mm-hmm.
What are Y and Z?
Right, X is the feature itself, but Y must be the specific behavioral change that feature enables for the user. And Z is the measurable business result that behavior change ultimately leads to. You have to walk the buyer through that entire chain. Never ever stop at just X, the feature description.
That translation step seems critical. Can you give us a concrete example? Nail this down for us.
Sure. So you don't just announce, hey, we built new smart filters. That's X, the feature. It's meaningless alone. You immediately translate it into the whole value chain. Our new smart filters, X feature, reduce our users' list building time from, say, 6 hours down to just 45 minutes. Y, the behavior change, which results in 5 more hours every single week for actual selling activity, not admin. Z, the measurable outcome.
Yeah.
That is the language of pipeline. That's talking their language.
That outcome focus feels much higher ROI.
Hmm.
Do we have data to back up that this specific structure actually provides a lift?
We do, yeah. Personalized, outcome-focused calls to action, CTAs, that use this X by $Z structure, they convert 202% better than generic feature-focused versions, 202%. Because that outcome link, it just hits the subconscious mind differently. It triggers pattern matching, confirms for the buyer, yes, this solves my specific, time-bound, costly problem.
Perfect. Okay, that flows really nicely into Pillar 4, external validation, or as you called it, kind of borrowed credibility. Even if our positioning in Pillar 3, the outcome message, is flawless, why do we still need third parties involved? Especially if you're a startup trying to compete against established giants, why are those external voices so much more persuasive than your own marketing team?
Yeah, it comes down to the deep, almost inherent trust gap that exists in B2B sales. The data shows 79% of B2B buyers rely heavily on social proof when they're making purchasing decisions. 79%. And just look at the confidence disparity. Buyers trust industry peers, people like them, with over 90% confidence. Compare that to trusting salespeople. It's down at only 29%. That huge gap, that 61-point difference, that's the opportunity space for Pillar 4.
Wow. So we're basically using external voices to bridge that massive 61-point confidence gap, which explains why things like positive reviews can generate that huge 270% conversion lift we hear about. So what does the hierarchy look like here? What kind of external validation is most impactful?
You absolutely lead with the highest quality social proof you can get, customer testimonials. But critically, they need to contain specific hard results, not just vague praise like they're great to work with. Think. Using their platform reduced our churn by 34% in just 90 days. Quantifiable results. And always prioritize video if you can. Video testimonials achieve around 39% higher engagement than written ones. Just the authenticity of seeing a real human speaking, it connects better.
Okay, customer testimonials with results are king. What about other forms of this borrowed credibility?
Yeah, beyond customers, you definitely leverage analyst reports or industry expert endorsements if you can get them. And critically often overlooked is investor social proof. When your lead investors, respected VCs, share your content or quote your metrics or talk about why they invested, that lends immediate, massive credibility, especially to those larger enterprise buyers who really value stability, due diligence, and long-term viability signals.
Right, makes sense. But gathering all this external proof, testimonials, case studies, it's time-consuming, isn't it? The strategy here must be about efficiency, too.
Absolutely. You can't spend all your time chasing testimonials. The key is ruthless content repurposing. You invest the time to get one really deep, high-quality case study, one great customer outcome documented. Then you need to force yourself, literally make it a process, to repurpose that single asset into 8 or more distribution-ready pieces of content. So that one video interview, it becomes a blog post, 4 different, quote, graphics for social, 2 short video clips focusing on specific results, maybe an investor update highlight. That borrowed credibility, amplified through repurposing, is how resource-constrained startups can actually level the playing field against the big, established players with huge marketing budgets.
Okay, but repurposing is key. That brings us to the final pillar, Pillar 5. This feels like where the founder's unique perspective really comes to the forefront, though the bold, maybe contrarian or operator-level takes. This sounds like the personal, maybe higher risk, but also higher reward content. What makes these takes so powerful? And importantly, how do you prevent them from just becoming, pure clickbait or empty provocation?
Yeah, the power here really comes from the surprisingly high demand for intellectual provocation among decision makers. Get this. 86% of decision makers say they specifically want provocative ideas that challenge their existing assumptions. They are genuinely bored by consensus takes.
Wow, 86%.
Yeah.
That explains why the ROI is reportedly so high for this type of content, right?
It's astronomical comparatively. This kind of provocative, insight-driven content often delivers a huge 156% ROI. Compare that to typical, safe, consensus-driven marketing content, which might see, 9 or 10% ROI if you're lucky. But as you said, you must execute it with integrity to avoid that clickbait label. It has to be grounded.
Okay, so how do we ensure that integrity? You mentioned an operator take formula.
Yeah, it's a simple structure. Step 1, lead with the contrarian position clearly, unapologetically. State a belief that runs counter to the common industry wisdom. Like, most B2B SaaS companies hire their first salesperson way too early, and they often do it for emotional reasons, not logical ones. Bold statement.
Okay, lead with the contrarian take. Then step 2, which sounds critical for avoiding the clickbait feel.
Step 2 is vital. You must back it up with your actual operating data or direct experience, not just theory, not just opinion. For example, continuing that thought, quote, "We deliberately delayed our first dedicated sales hire until we hit $500 in ARR. What was the result? 40% higher close rates initially because our product market fit was undeniably proven by then, and those early hires weren't wasting cycles chasing ghost markets or unqualified leads." See? Data, experience. You should also try to include one simple visual that crystallizes the insight, maybe a quick chart or a simple diagram showing the divergence between conventional wisdom and your successful path. And crucially, you always frame it as a conversation starter. Invite discussion, invite disagreement even. Don't present it as the final absolute word. That pulls people into your ecosystem.
And the mechanism that really makes this pillar a genuine moat is the way algorithms value that resulting conversation, right?
Exactly. On platforms like LinkedIn, comments have something like 15 times the algorithmic importance of a simple like. 15 times. So when you spark genuine debate, genuine conversation with an authentic, data-backed, maybe slightly contrarian point of view, you generate the kind of deep engagement the algorithms are designed to reward. That's how they spread your authority much faster and wider. Consistent, authentic POV content, grounded in experience. It builds an authority moat that literally cannot be purchased or replicated by a competitor's marketing team just throwing money at ads.
And the ultimate benefit goes beyond reach. It fundamentally changes your sales process, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It leads directly to inbound sales conversations that are often up to 70% shorter. Why? Because of the trust, the expertise, even the philosophical alignment. It already pre-exists thanks to the content you've consistently shared. The buyer feels like they already know you, they trust your framework, they understand your approach. They're essentially pre-qualified and pre-sold on your way of thinking before the first call even happens. So, just to summarize this whole deep dive for you listening, authority content. It's really not a side project for founders anymore. It's not optional. It's fundamental infrastructure for building immediate trust and driving measurable pipeline growth. But it has to be anchored in specific data, real experience, and repeatable frameworks like the 5 pillars we covered today that translate that experience into quantifiable, valuable content. Ultimately, authenticity, backed by genuine operating experience, that's the ultimate moat you're trying to build here.
And maybe here's the final provocative thought for you to carry forward, really thinking about the competitive threat landscape. Our sources show a really shocking statistic. 70% of C-suite executives admit they actively question their existing suppliers after they encounter authoritative thought leadership from a competitor. They see that new insight, that challenging idea, and they immediately think, why isn't my current vendor teaching me this? Why aren't they leading this conversation?
Exactly. So the takeaway is pretty stark. If you are not consistently producing this kind of authoritative content, defining your category, challenging assumptions, then you can be sure someone else is, and they are actively using it to take that trust and eventually that revenue away from you.
So the question for you now is, which of these 5 specific pillars, the Milestone Narrative, culture as marketing, outcome-driven product info, external validation, or the operator POV, which one can you deploy immediately? Which one can you start using right now to build that moat and start shortening your sales cycle today? Lots to think about there. Until next time.